We're going to move on to manage compliance, scale securely, and leverage AI for smarter AP. This session is all about to help you. And as your business scales, it's easy for things to slip through the cracks. You've been forced to do more with software that can't keep up. Traditional OCR slows you down. Manual processes lead to errors, and all the while, fraudsters are just waiting for their opportunity to strike. Smart AP automation and AI can put you back in the driver's seat while eliminating security risks. Routable CEO Omri Mor will break down AI beyond the buzzwords and demonstrate how leveraging automation and AI can help your team save time, defend against fraud, and ultimately transform your financial organization. So you're going to discover ways to prevent fraud and ensure you know your payee, get under the hood of AI and understand it's evolved over the time, and up-level AP automation, and gain insight into real-world examples of companies using AI to create a more secure user experience. This session, of course, is brought to you by Routable, and let's meet Omri Mor, co-founder and CEO of Routable. His mission is to modernize the accounting industry. He is the co-founder and CEO of Routable, as I just mentioned, founded in 2017, and it offers friction-free accounts payable, simplifying the payables process from receipt to settlement. Routable has raised over $100 million from investors and is transforming finance, starting with accounts payable. Omri, how are you today?
Doing well, properly caffeinated, just had breakfast. How are you?
Really? Decaffeinated? I don't know. I was waiting for you to be like, I'm great. It hasn't hit you yet. I'm fantastic, Omri. Where are you coming to us from?
I'm calling in from San Francisco. How about yourself?
I'm from Toronto. It's probably the same temperature here in San Francisco as Toronto because we're about 40 degrees, which is probably in the 90s for you guys.
Oh, wow, that's hot. I
Yeah.
think it's probably like a cool 20 degrees Celsius here today.
Oh,
So,
really? We're
yeah, yeah.
double. Wow. So, tell me a little about Rootable because it's fairly new. You opened up in 2017.
To me, it feels like 800 years. To me, it feels new. We've been on a mission to really democratize the finance and accounts payable process by making sure that everybody across your org can get the information that they need and the automation that they need without risking fraud or compliance. If you think about it, today you have a bank account for a business, or maybe a few bank accounts, and maybe a handful of people have access to that. You have your ERP, maybe 10 people have access to that. But typically in between, you have hundreds of vendors, thousands of invoices, a lot of in-between conversation, right? And the office of the CFO is constantly being pressured to do more with less. There's an accounting
Right.
shortage, right? There are some tools that haven't caught up with the times. And then there's budgets. And I think that a lot of our responsibility is to make workflow seamless, transparent, and communicative for internal teams and with also third parties like vendors. So that the whole process can just be transparent and fast. And Rob, it's one of those things that you don't want to go faster without less safety, if that makes sense.
Yes,
Give
absolutely.
give you a good example. You buy a Volvo when you have your first kid, most likely. You want to go slow and safe. Eventually, F1, they can go fast and safe, right? A driver can drive 300 miles per hour, hit a wall, walk away untouched. That is kind of the age of AI and what we're kind of pushing forward, if that makes sense. AI is helping us move faster, but we want to make sure that moving faster does not come with the risk of slipping up, missing processes, making mistakes, getting caught in fraud or compliance issues. That's a summary of it.
I love your analogy because the Indy is about to start right here in Toronto the next 3, 4 days. So there's going to be a lot of fast cars here. All right. I'm going to keep an eye on our chat box in case there's any questions or comments, and I'll leave it up to you to get to the root of your session. You're on mute, Omri. I think you muted yourself by accident.
Beautiful.
There
I
we
get
go. You're
get around.
back.
Thanks. So today I'm going to go through defining AI, AP through the ages, and I'll show two examples of how we've added AI into helping automate workflows in the Office of the CFO and the AP ecosystem. First of all, just a giveaway. Please participate, please chat, please ask questions. We will actually be monitoring for those who ask questions to enter them into a raffle for Ray-Ban and Meta glasses. They look cool, but I think they function even better. So excited to just incorporate that to the whole session. All right. So at a high level, I think Rob, we did a um, good overview. Our goal at Routable is to give you a platform that can handle AP automation, payments, vendor management, compliance and controls, and then coverage. I would say we can pay anyone anywhere in the world with 13 to 14 different payment methods, meaning we want to help you move money the way your bank would and slightly better. So let's just start into the world of AI. I think that when I say we, I mean technology companies have been trying to sell AI by calling everything AI, and I think that's the wrong thing to do. We do have OCR, which is just a technology that we've had since the 70s. It's the same technology for when you get a ticket or you go through a toll booth. We have had machine learning, and that is just a recommendation engine where Netflix recommends you um, maybe The Bachelor in the country that you're not watching, or just something like that. Then you have NLP, which we all experience with Alexa and voice assistants. And right now, where we are in the phase of AI actually creeping in and existing is both generative AI and agentic AI, where we are starting to be able to use LLMs in such a way to offload some of our work by training them and making it accessible. Um, and I have a wonderful question here as we're talking through. Does vendor management cover vendor communication as well? And the answer is yes, Manish. So thank you for asking. Um, LLMs are a new thing, and I think that they're somewhat intimidating. I've done a couple of webinars showing how to get started with Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot. At a very base level, we have been familiar with machine learning for a very long time, and I think that we've been familiar with machine learning within the data science and finance ecosystem for over a decade, right? Very popular in the mid 2010s, continues to be popular, but really we're using it for pattern recognition. AI, as I said, is a broad encompassing of a bunch of different technologies that are being sold to you right now. So it's always important to ask, what am I being sold today? Um, at the base of it, though, is now what we're seeing are LLMs, which are, if you think about it, the smartest autocompletes in the world. Where, if you were today to type a text message and say, hey, do you want to, maybe the autocomplete would be grab lunch. These LLMs are leveraging all the content that they can ingest. And I think that's probably the way to say almost all of the internet, if possible, to help predict how to respond to you, do your work, and automate what you're doing. And they're also allowing agents to do that work as well. So LLMs are really the new innovation that we're using today to automate your work. And what I'll be presenting later on is thanks to large language models that are understanding the context. But before we talk about the future, let's talk about the past. So I think that when any company talks to you about AP, they think about this in a nutshell, right? Vendor onboarding, PO creation, invoice processing, PO matching, approvals, payments, etc. Now, in the mid 2000s, it kind of looked like this, right? Um, we did a lot of manual work. We typed a lot of data into the bank. We um, emailed invoices to approvers. Some of us still do that today. We typed a lot of manually. We assigned approvers, but we didn't really record it, so our audit trail wasn't that good. We were creating notcha files. We weren't really doing reconciliation the way we can do today, and our audits were extremely slow. Now, if you are a PO-backed company back in the mid 2000s, you were also creating POs somehow, communicating that with your team somehow, and planning receiving. Now, I know we were using ERPs for the majority of this. However, ERPs don't do a good job in communicating with your team. So a lot of this communication was being done over email, and there was a lot of confusions and delays and so forth, and frustrated vendors. Now, as we flip forward in the 2010s, we started getting better, right? We started syncing data into the ERP. We started storing payment information so you don't have to retype it every time. We started forwarding invoices into the inbox. We started using OCR. That's one technology. We started syncing the data into the ERP, but we were really still typing a lot, right? Typing tax info, typing W-9 info, typing bills, and reconciliation was still very, very, very manual. And guess what? We were still not thinking about fraud review on the vendor side and invoice fraud review on the receiving invoice side. So even though the technologies by the mid 2010s got better, we are doing so much work that most of our leadership team don't understand how much work we do. And then we don't have the resources or the bandwidth to ascertain whether these vendors are safe and these invoices are safe. Now, things have changed, and we're in the beginning phases of that change. I don't think that we're here. We're starting to get there. You're seeing companies that are presenting to you today starting to be honest about where they are going and what they're able to automate. I think that, you know, as I said at the beginning of the call with Rob or beginning of my session, you're expected to do more with less. And that doesn't feel good. Now, I feel like every department is being asked to do more with less, especially with AI being a topic. Compliance requirements have changed and they're constantly changing. I think they're changing both because innovation is moving forward, but also sometimes innovations or companies who innovate dismiss compliance and they create more work for the rest of us through regulations. The accounting shortage is real and it's growing. And I think it's harder and harder to staff people that know accounting for your specific industry. And it actually feels like technology is changing too fast. As an engineer myself, I feel like I have to code every day and I have to read every new article in order to catch up. And if I feel that way, you must feel that way too, right? And I think that more than anything with AI, it seems like a pipe dream, but it can actually add value and it has to add value for the conversation to get started. So mid 20s, 2020s, at a high level, this is what your Office of the CFO AP workflow could look like. And I think this conversation could also help answer what could AR look like, what does FP&A look like, and so forth. If you see, there are still things in green that are going to be manual but improved. But there's also a lot with the little AI star that are going to start getting automated. I do think that there is a world in which AI can do the majority of this. However, each company will create the controls of what they're comfortable AI doing and what they're not. For example, you might still want to complete approvals manually, even though assigning approvers and reminding approvers can be automated, right? You might want to still close your books manually, even though the beginning legs of reconciliation can be done manually. I'm actually confident that audits could be done with LLMs today, but we still might want to do them manually. Really, what I'm trying to hit on is that there's a lot of benefit to AI. And as you can see, we're moving in a direction where in the last 20 years, more and more and more can be done with AI, which is fantastic. So now we're going to talk about, okay, You help me understand where we are in the what is being sold to me. You help me understand the progression of where is AI today. Now let's talk about what was previously impossible and what we're doing. If you think about it at a high level, these are your strategic needs. This is your Maslow hierarchy of finance, right? You need to do precise and accurate accounting. You need to have your compliance needs met. You need to do risk mitigation policies and procedures. And if you don't do 5 through 7, you can get in trouble, right? If you can do 5 through 7, it unlocks the ability to focus on measurement, goal setting, planning, and actually enabling the business to go forward. Um, I read a new article recently saying that CFOs are the new CEOs because they are the people that think about how do we move the business forward. And I do have to say that our CFO has been an instrumental partner in helping us think about how do we improve our margins, increase our revenue, and get to profitability faster. So what wasn't possible before that we can do now? Um, you guys know about know your customer, know your business, KYB and KYC. We now are terming KYP, know your payee, as an end-to-end exclusive experience where when you onboard a vendor, you can do a background check essentially on are they compliant for W-9s or W-8s? Did the data that they give us match the IRS database? Are they on any watch lists? Is there any external risk or behavior that's happening? Are there any invoices that they're sending us that are fake, documented, or fraudulent? And do they own their bank account? I think do they own their bank account is one of the biggest questions. And in reality, for Know Your Payee, you're really saying, does my W-9 data match my IRS data? Does that legal name match what's the legal name on the bank account? And do I feel safe about the invoices I'm receiving through them, whether I've known them for a long time or not? Because as you know, with account takeovers, your favorite vendor might be really bad at security and they could have their email be taken over, and all of a sudden you're receiving a weird invoice that has a new account writing number and maybe a new address for Omaha when you expected it to be for Teaneck, New Jersey, if that makes sense. So I think that AI can mitigate the risk of human error too. So it's not just about fraud, right? It's also about data entry. Um, I think at the end of the day, it's really important to think about how much work you do when you're entering an invoice into the system. And we did this as a test in our last conference, but we tried to see how much more accurate AI can be in coding an invoice than human. I think that people still know the most logic, but when it comes to a repetitive task, AI is still doing the best job. And I think what's really important here is that we'll show you this in a moment. It is really about recognizing the issues and also um, making sure that when you're having a hard day and maybe you've been working for 13 hours and you need to review 4 more invoices, that you have an extra layer of eyes that can catch what you can't in the moment. So what I'll do first and foremost is show you a preview of a future version of Routable that we are launching with select partners that really focuses on fraud. And when I say fraud, it's catching uh, erratic or not normal behavior by your vendors and your invoices. And that's what we'll focus here first. And then we'll walk through data entry and automation. So one quick comment here before I continue is that this is a preview. We are working on it with select clients. And more than anything, what I want to highlight is that we are currently in the testing phase, right? So what I'm about to show you, we've been able to get customers happy with it. And moreover, we've been able to stop several invoices one of which was for $1 million. So this is working, but as I mentioned, AI is one of those things that just has to become better and better. And our responsibility is to give you something that is fantastic. Um, I think you guys should be able to see my screen now. And I'll go ahead and play this video. Tracy, can you give me a thumbs up if you guys can see this video?
Not seeing anything just yet, Omri.
Oh, interesting. How about now? Not yet either, huh?
Not not yet.
All right. It's set.
Oh, there,
Uh,
there we go.
all right.
We got a screen
Love
now.
it. A little delay between the internet and the technology. Love it. Okay. So what I wanted to talk through is, let's say you're a company that gets 1,500 invoices a month. That is something that is typically manageable around a team of 2 to 3. But we want to start the conversation at the second that you receive the invoice. So what I mean by that is at the end of the day, we want to make it so you can, and give me 1 second because Zoom controls is really ruining my clickability here. Zoom controls. One moment. All right. Resharing. I wish I had the opportunity to give feedback to the Zoom controls guys. All right. So I'll go ahead and click play here and then share full screen. All right. So let's say you receive an invoice. We want to tell you at the point that you're receiving your invoice that it is high risk. And we'll start with little dots, start to tell you what we are concerned about. Once you click over into the invoice, what we're going to do is we're going to start highlighting with red overview the parts of the invoice that we think are doctored. So for example, here we know that the address changed and we know that it's been modified since the last time. We found a duplicate invoice number. We also know that like the total has been modified. And we want to let you know that at a high level, we think that there's a high chance of fraud. And we want you to, rather than just deleting this invoice, just move it to invoice review, right? We're letting you know that there's information there that is abnormal from what you're seeing before. And one of the most important things here too is having the conversation of, okay, what has changed? And to us, address changes, bank account changes are one of the most critical things that we want you guys to know about. So if I click here into this, you'll see that we'll tell you at a high level that the invoice has been edited, which is unusual. And if I click into the bank account side, we'll tell you that this is a brand new bank account that we don't recognize. And then on top of that, we'll be able to tell you, does the legal entity that you have on file match the legal entity that owns this bank account? So this is really about starting to have a conversation of, do we feel comfortable with the data we're receiving? And the reason this is so important is because at a high level, what we want to ensure is that we're calling out things that a human won't be able to catch on first glance. And we're also wanting to be able to call out what, what is obvious, right? The bank account was changed. There's a whiteout or digital whiteout over the last invoice. And we want to ensure to call out that there was malicious activity on this PDF, and there's high likelihood of account takeover or this being a fake vendor trying to impersonate your real vendor. Those are really critical things, and we're able to do that with LLMs and agentic AI. Now, the next example that I want to click on is, and I'll go back to sharing my screen, is my favorite thing of OCR. One moment. You guys should be able to see this in a second. So I feel like when we have a relationship with OCR, we have been marketed something that works, and it doesn't work all the time. OCR kind of feels like a check scanner. It feels like a copy machine that works 70% of the time and runs out of ink, right? In theory, what we want it to feel like is like an AP clerk, a really good AP clerk that remembers everything and is able to have a clear conversation with us about what we're scanning, why we're scanning it, what is the context of the invoice, what is the context of the vendor, and why. On the left here, you'll see a robot from one of my favorite AI TV shows called Sunny. It's on Apple TV. I highly recommend it if you're interested in AI. And then on the right here, you'll see all the work that we're actually doing in the background in order to perfectly code an invoice for you and make sure that even if we coded it wrong, we have the ability to retrain the invoice capture to get to 100% accuracy. So again, I'll stop here and I'll go into demo mode. And what I want to show you now is the ability to have just an agent do all the work for you. That's probably the best way to say that. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And I have just so many windows open, just like the rest of us. So this is a really, really good example here. Let's say I loaded an invoice. I want to talk about what's obvious. So what's obvious is the name of the vendor, right? And if you hover on this little icon, this little AI icon, will tell you that this is coming from the invoice attachment. The bill number is coming from the invoice attachment. The date is coming from the invoice attachment, and the due date is coming from invoice attachment. However, payment priority, it's not on the invoice. We have to use AI to learn how you've coded all of your previous bills and when something will become high priority. So if you can see here, rather than saying from invoice, it will say predicted by AI. Now let's keep talking about what else is obvious. The amount from the invoice, the memo from the invoice, but GL account, we're predicting that, right? Warehouse location, we're predicting that. Classes, we're predicted that. So what I really want to focus on is the fact that when you receive even the best OCR, you still have to code the bill. You still have to ask, why am I receiving this bill? What is the context of receiving this bill? And for example, for sales tax, as you can see, it's a different GL account than, right? Shipping and handling, and it's a different GL account than just our overall marketing and advertising expenses. This is what's really important now. This is context. Three GL accounts, right? Across 5 line items. We have one location, one class, but there's an opportunity for so many fields to be selected. And our job is to not only read the invoice, but to learn the context. Learn the context just like we're an employee working at your company by both seeing how you code bills and by learning how you historically coded bills. And then we'll do the same thing for the vendor, right? We know that you want to pay them over a 2-day ACH. We know that you want to debit and pull from this bank account. We know that the money should go to this bank account. We know that you don't want to schedule this right now. And we know that we should assign these approvers, right? All of these things are happening because of the context that you're giving us, like the GL account or the department. And we want to get to a point where you load an invoice into our system. We can say that with confidence, we're able to get you to like 99.4% accuracy of the vendor, the GL accounts, the custom fields, the custom dimensions, the custom segments, the payment methods, the payment priorities, when should it be paid. We truly want to give you a platform that is feeling like a co-pilot or a friend or someone who can pick up the work when you're too busy and allow you to go back to being strategic in finance, which we think is the most critical part. With my last few minutes here, what I really want to focus on is, like you heard from other speakers, AI is here. But I think that even though AI is here, it's really important to ask the companies that you're purchasing from, so what is it really, right? Is it OCR? Is it machine learning? Is it an LLM? Is it an agent? And so forth. It's actually functional. And I think that I'm a big fan of try before you buy. You're being sold a lot of AI, AI, AI. So please start asking for trying it, right? This is so new. You should be able to see if it actually works. And as I'm mentioning, join more webinars like this. I think that it is fantastic that you're here today. And be curious because this is something that can impact your work significantly over time. And last but not least, we would love to be an amazing partner if possible. Thank you. This is my email. You're welcome to send an email at any given time. I really appreciate it. And Rob, Tracy, thanks for having us. I really appreciate that.
Omri, yes, very
Yes, very
informative.
good.
Oh, so I think we're bouncing back there a little bit. So while I've got you here, because we do have a minute or two left, things are constantly changing with AI.
Yeah,
And
it's
are you
terrifying.
finding any roadblocks when you're trying to, help other companies and get them on board? Are you finding that people are worried about losing their jobs, or what's the biggest roadblock?
Um, I'll put it this way. So I think by and large, the office of the CFO are employees and people who have multiple degrees and are really smart. And today, Rob, at a high level, a lot of the AI that's being worked on is to kill the part-time worker, if that makes sense. Kill is the wrong word, but replace the part-time worker. A lot of AI is really being put here to um, get rid of the need to offshore work, if that makes sense. That's where we are today. I think where we're really focused on is how to help someone who has multiple degrees do their job better or actually do their job. If you think about it, we see a lot of CFOs or directors of accounting and controllers doing data entry, doing manual repetitive work. We're trying to figure out how to help them actually do their core role, which is to be strategic and planning and so forth. Um, the other thing that we're seeing is that there's just a hesitation in large of trying AI because the amount of information that is coming out daily is massive. Just this morning, we just got like there was I read about this every morning. Have my coffee. I say, what's up? What do I need to be on top of? Chat GPT 5 is being released soon, right? Well, what are the implications of 5 versus 4.5 versus 4? And the majority of the world still only has access to 3.5. Does it make sense, Rob? I feel like we're at a point where and innovation is outpacing consumption, if that makes sense. And it's just one of those things where I'll give you a really good example. I'm a really big fan of baseball. And this season, the Yankees decided to reshape the baseball bat in a legal way. And it gave their players the ability to hit better, further, and harder, which is fantastic. But imagine showing up to your first game and then realizing that the other team changed the rules of the game without having any heads up, right? What happened in the first 2 months of baseball in the United States is what's happening every week with technology, where people are saying, wait, I thought I could just ask ChatGPT to do that. And maybe now I need ChatGPT to see that. And then there's this iterative conversation of not knowing where to start and not knowing how to get comfortable, if that makes sense. Because the technology is constantly being pushed forward. And if you're not spending 2 to 3 hours on it each week learning, then it's going to get more and more intimidating, right?
Absolutely. It's a process, and I think education is key here.
And Rob, to be frank, like 2 to 3 years ago, when we started working on this, we were skeptics ourselves, right? Here, I'll tell you what happened. Our light switch moment where we said, whoa, this is different, was we tried to build a feature in 9 months to do invoice fraud detection by ourselves with no LLM. We introduced OpenAI into the conversation. It took us only 2 months to do the work.
Wow.
So it's helping us as well, and it's providing value. So now we're asking the conversation every single time, how can we inject it in a way that's native to the conversation? Right, Rob, like the interface that we showed you wasn't an agent to talk to. It was just, hey, you're used to this user interface. We did some work for you. Can you spot check it? Right? And fun fact, you can turn that off. If you don't like our results, you can turn that off. But a better conversation is if you don't like our results, let's talk together so we can train our AI models better to do your work for you. Because the promise is great. I think the execution and the journey in between is where we are right now, as we're getting comfortable of not a human and not an outsourced party, but an agent doing the work in between, right?
Yeah, you're still going to need that human contact, the human brain needs to be there. A person needs to be there. Elizabeth, we're going to unmute you. I believe Elizabeth put her hand up and has a question.
Awesome.
Um, we'll just get her unmuted here. Elizabeth, are you there? I can see you're still on mute. Unless you want to just write in our webinar chat box, I can. Oh, there we go.
Hi. Sorry, I think I pressed it by mistake, but I was
We got you now.
listening. So, yeah.
Did you have a question, Elizabeth? Oh, or maybe she hit the hand by accident. Okay, well, final thoughts, Omri.
Final thoughts, spend time, explore. I think that more than anything, like use this as a fun side project. Jared, I see you saying decision making can't be replaceable, I guess. And I think it depends, right? And I'll give you an example. Autonomous cars, whether to go left or right, whether
Oh,
to take the detour or not, right? We are using machines to make some of the decisions. But there's harder decisions where I don't think that humans should be replaced with, right? So, but more than anything, Rob, I think that I would recommend to do two things. Keep educating yourselves with content like this. I think this is fantastic. And figure out what is your least favorite part of your work and try to slowly replace it with AI. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. But do use your community of other people in finance in the office of the CFO. The community is amazing. And I think that teaching each other is probably the best path forward.